Hello, Rockland, and welcome to our Candidates Night Forum. My name is Jessica Laverty. I am the chair of the Rockland Democratic Town Committee, and tonight we'll be speaking with some of our candidates for the April 8th municipal elections. Invitations were extended to all candidates running for all offices in our election, and those who chose to come tonight are here to answer some few questions, and some are here to make statements on behalf of their candidacy. And first tonight, I'd like to introduce Deborah Dooner. They are running for Water Commissioner, the one-year term. And Deborah, you have 3 minutes if you'd like to make a statement.
Thank you. Hello. First of all, I would like to thank the Rockland Democratic Town Committee, the Rockland Republican Town Committee, and the Rockland Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event. My name is Debbie Dooner. I am running for the one-year seat on the Board of Water Commissioners. I was appointed to the position in November of 2022 after a resignation. I am a lifelong resident of Rockland. I graduated from Rockland High School in 1977. I have an associate's degree in environmental science from Quincy College, summa cum laude. My husband Don and I have been married for over 40 years. Don is a retired Rockland Call firefighter. We raised our sons, Kyle and James, in Rockland. I worked at the Abington-Rockland Joint Waterworks for 24 years, the last 20 as chief operator. As a chief operator, I was responsible for operating and maintaining 3 water treatment plants and supervising a number of certified operators. I know the system. I am the 3rd generation of 4 to work in the water field. My father, my grandfather, myself, and I have a nephew who works in the Hanover Water Department. The waterworks is facing a number of challenges in the coming years. We will have to make decisions on PFAS and supply issues, among others. I know the history of the department, and I have the knowledge to make informed decisions. I feel that having a commissioner on the board that has operated a water treatment plant would be an asset. If anyone has any concerns or questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. I am on Facebook. My email address is debdooner1977@gmail.com. I would appreciate your support at the polls April 8th. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our 3-year school committee term. Our 2 candidates for 3-year school committee are Jamie Hennessy and Julie Minahan. Welcome. Thank you. And I'll let y'all start off with your opening statements. You have 2 minutes each.
Oh, sure.
Jamie?
Hello, I'm Jamie Hennessy. Thank you for having us here. I'm happy to answer questions. I wanted to give a little bit about myself for those that I don't know in town. I was born and raised in Somerville, Massachusetts here, so I'm a city girl a little bit at heart, and moved to the South Shore about 16 years ago. I have a Bachelor's of Science in economics from Tufts University, and in moving here 16 years ago, it was right before my daughter was born, so we decided to live in Rockland and raise our family. I have 2 children. My daughter, as I said, Jillian, is 16. She's a sophomore in the high school, and my son Jason, he's 13 and he's in 8th grade. They've gone to the Rockland Daycare, Memorial Park, middle school, so we've had a great journey through the school system. I was one of the co-chairs at the Memorial Park PAC, and then served as chair for a year or 2, and then really kind of stepped back a little bit and enjoyed the time through sports and really engaged with youth sports, more soccer, but the kids have tried a little bit of everything. From there, probably it was 2019, or 2020, I ran for school committee right before COVID started, so I am a candidate for re-election, and as part of the school committee, general member, and then most recently vice chair. So that is a little bit about me, and thank
Welcome. Julie, your opening statement?
Thank you. Good evening. I want to first thank the Democratic Party Committee and the Republican Committee for hosting this, as well as WRPS. Thank you to the people here that are helping us get this out to the town of Rockland. Just a little bit about myself. I have lived in Rockland for about 25 years now. My two daughters went to school through the Rockland Public Schools all the way through high school. I now have two grandchildren that are attending the brand-new Phelps Elementary School, and they're very excited to be there. I actually taught in Rockland for over 17 years, and now I am at the Avon Middle High School as an administrator. While I was in Rockland as a teacher, I got my master's degree in education and also my doctorate in educational leadership. You'll probably see me most recently around town on either, watching the soccer games, girls soccer, boys football, most recently basketball, and now we'll be moving to the baseball and softball fields for spring. So this is an exciting time in Rockland, and I'm happy to be a candidate for school committee.
Thank you both very, very much. With our first question, I'd like to stay with you, Julie. What are the most important functions of the school committee?
Like the other committees in town, regardless of whether it's the selectmen or planning board or the water commission, the school committee is just as important, if not more so, because they are the ones that drive the education in our town. I believe that the most important function is to listen to the taxpayers and help form policies and procedures that will guide the educational system the way the taxpayers would like it to be going, not only financially, physically, but also holding administration accountable and holding the teachers accountable for what they're providing our students.
Thank you. And I'll repeat the question again, Jamie. It is, what are the most important functions of the school committee?
So as Julie had mentioned, a lot of the school committees do focus obviously on policy procedures, fiscal responsibility, and hiring and evaluating our superintendent. So, I don't see there's one that is more important than the other. You do need to have oversight in all of those areas. I do believe one of the main things is fiscal responsibility. So the last 3 years, getting to understand the ins and outs of the budget, the collaboration that happens with Town Hall, Chapter 70, all the things that rely on state funding, because without money, we wouldn't be able to run these schools. So I don't think money is going to solve everything or the main reason a school committee exists, but having that oversight does help to understand where the money is going within the schools, which helps shape policy, materials, curriculum, as well as, the staff and administration that we have. So, thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to stay with you. Do you believe the school committee should maintain a public comment period within their meetings?
I do. I do believe that there should be a public comment time as part of our agenda on the school committee. I do believe all voices should be heard, whether that is the only vehicle. I don't believe that's the one main area. I do believe a public comment period could be beneficial if it is respectful by both parties, the people that are sitting on the school committee as well as the audience stating and asking and, their questions, having the right guidelines and expectations for those parties during that open comment period would be beneficial. And, I think it is something that is important to hear what our constituents, what our taxpayers are thinking about what's happening in our schools.
Thank you.
One other thing, obviously the open comment is a great forum, but I think being a school committee member, you're not only available during the school committee meeting time. My email is out there, my phone number is out there. I talk get feedback from parents on sports fields and drop-off lines. So it's not a, certain office hours of you can only talk to me about school items in a certain window.
Thank
So,
you. And Julia?
Thank you. Yes, I do believe that a public comment time should be had at the school committee meetings. It would be nice if we had more people come to the school committee meetings so that they can voice their opinion, ask questions of the school committee members, and hopefully, moving forward, we can promote that a little bit better so that we have people with concerns that will come and share. As Ms. Hennessy said, it is important, though, in any public forum that we be respectful of one another. We have to be tolerant and also accepting of diverse opinions and be willing to debate appropriately and respectfully, and regardless of what the topic is.
Thank you. And I'm going to stay with you. What is your opinion of standardized testing used as a tool by which to measure the success of both students and teachers?
Standardized testing, unfortunately, is not going anywhere. So being a teacher, I do know that using standardized testing throughout the school year as a way of measuring progress and determining how students, what they need and what we can do as educators to help them achieve the what do I want to say? Sorry. Help students achieve the goal or the standard line that's been set at each age group. Standardized testing can be a great tool. It can be a great resource for teachers. I know in elementary school they use the DIBELS, which helps show progress in not only student reading but also speaking, which has inherently caught a lot of issues that students had early on with speech development delay, also some reading comprehension issues, that kind of thing. However, most people think of MCAS as the only standardized test. We have to remember that is one moment in time. It's a picture of what the student knows in that moment, at that moment. And I don't think that's really reflective at all times of what a student is capable of or how a teacher is doing in the school.
Okay. And I'll read the question back for you. What is your opinion of standardized testing used as a tool by which to measure the success of students and teachers?
So to me, I think standardized testing is one tool in a toolbox for evaluating success. I do have mixed feelings about standardized testing. I am a very much a data person, so facts and numbers, if you've watched previous school committees, I'm always asking questions about some sort of data metric or something. But I do think it could be a good way to gain those broader insights about what's happening. Are there things working, things not working? Are changes into curriculum needed? Are there gaps? But I don't think it is the sole indicator of how successful a student is by any means. I know my children don't test well on standardized tests. It is one point. You don't know if they had a bad morning, were they up late, what happened. It is one testing metric, a couple hours long, answering lots of questions. But I do think it could be beneficial for the school to use as one tool. But hopefully the success of teachers and students are captured on a broader scale, the relationship they built together, the success that they had, the personality, the social and emotional well-being of a student is also an indicator of success as well. So,
Thank you very much. And I'm going to stay with you for the next question. What will happen to the old school properties within town? And what does the new school return in benefit to the community other than well-educated students is how it was worded, which I think is quite enough, but were we to extend beyond?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great stuff happening with those old properties. And if you've driven down past the high school and the new elementary school, you can see that Memorial Park is already started to be demolished. So in place of Memorial Park is going to be a multi-purpose field, which will allow for additional sports games, nights games, there'll be lights. Jefferson is also being demolished, and that land will be returned to the Parks Department. So I don't believe there's been any direction about what is truly going there. Hopefully some parks, maybe a dog field, who knows? Maybe the community has some input into what goes in that space. And then Eston's being converted to an early education center for hopefully free preschool and the full-day kindergarten that exists today. To me, what is the new school return? I think it helps build connections. It's not just a well-educated, because I do think our students are well-educated in the schools that exist today, but equality in education. The curriculums have been consolidated across the schools. So to me, it's the importance of relationships. If you're in Eston, you might not know someone that's in Memorial Park, and those connections didn't really happen until middle school. So I feel that the community benefits for all students attending one elementary school, because who knows, families might connect across town. Our town's not very big, but those connections can build a stronger community, just foster different dialogue and relationships, and what they call bulldog pride. So.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'll read again for you, Julie. What will happen to the old school properties, and what does the new school return in benefit to the community other than well-educated children?
Thank you. As Ms. Hennessy said, a lot of the old properties have already been decided upon what's going to happen through town vote over the last few years. So I think it's great that the old Memorial Park building is turning into fields. Eston is a great school setup, and especially with all the soccer fields and the playground and the nature trail, to have the preschool consolidated there. And then having Jefferson demolished, while sad, it's also going to be a great space that the park department can use right in the middle of town. Who knows, maybe we can have, playgrounds there, community picnic area, basketball courts, who knows? But I think it'll be a great space for the community in general. As far as the new school, yes, consolidating is a great thing. It will build community with kids, especially at a young age. And I think it will also allow the curriculum that they've tried to consolidate and try to align by building. I think that'll just help do that with students in one building, teachers in one building. You can also have more collaboration between teachers of the same grade, that kind of thing. Time-wise, you don't have to travel, that kind of thing. So I think it'll be great for everyone, and which will be a benefit to our community in that way as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And I will stay with you. We're almost there. What experience do you have that will benefit our school committee?
Well, as I said earlier, I was a teacher in Rockland for 17 years. I've lived here for a while, 25 years. My children have gone through the complete school system, K through 12, so I feel like I know the different levels of schooling. I'm also an administrator in another school system, so I'm bringing administrative experience to this role. Also, a little diversity in my school background as far as what they do in Avon compared to what they do here. So more insight into, maybe possible changes, what works, that kind of thing. I also have a doctorate in educational leadership, which I did my doctorate on the funding in education. So I worked a lot with statistics and numbers to try to figure out, how we can help our students achieve with the least amount of funds possible and do well, which was an interesting study in itself. So that's, I bring a very background to this role as a school committee member, which I think is something positive.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm going to head back to you, Jamie. What experience do you have that will benefit the school committee?
Sure. So I think we all have varied backgrounds. Like Julie, I'm a mother. I've been a volunteer in the school system through Memorial Park. I've had a great professional career as a business analyst and a project manager for over 20 years. I've served on other professional boards and understand the need to balance board goals of an organization with fulfilling the needs of your constituents and those that are members. Serving on the school committee the last 3 years has been an eye-opening experience. But I think through all of these experiences that have made me, I guess, the person I am, it comes down to, I think, a lot of the soft skills. And I feel like one of the biggest things that I can contribute from across all these experiences, sort of the listening, as part of obviously being a mother, you're listening and trying to understand what your children are saying, but it comes down to having the ability to listen with empathy and understanding and be someone that the members of town can come and talk to. I might not be able to solve all of your problems, but I can listen and help. But then there's also listening to problem solve, listening to develop actions, as well as planning around how to make solutions occur in the school system. So hopefully all my experiences have given me the skills to be a beneficial member of the school committee.
Thank you. And I'm going to stay with you for our last question, which is, and thank you both so very much for your time and patience and coming out here and for running and looking to support your town. Our last question is a two-parter, and I'm going to start with you, Jamie. Why are you the best candidate for this job? And if elected, what will be your priorities?
Sure. So first, I want to say that I don't think about this as a job, right? We all have our day jobs, and what I do think this is an opportunity to give back to the town of Rockland. I didn't grow up here. I have been a member of our community for 16 years, but I think I chose to make my home here in Rockland, and I'm glad I did. I'm super happy with the education that my children have gotten. And part of that is making a difference, is raising your hand to volunteer. And I think the relationships that I've built prior to being on school committee, as well as being part of school committee for the last 3 years, with families, with the staff, with the administration, makes me a good candidate. I wouldn't say maybe the best, but hopefully what I've been able to contribute has been valuable to this town. And I guess if I'm reelected, my priorities would be to continue to support and engage community. What other things can we do to bring families into our school systems, get them engaged at all levels? It sort of peters off when you get into high school. And it's really keeping those parents and guardians involved in education in all aspects, from the arts to sports, to science and technology. So the engagement, the transitions, I think, are really important, which are, moving from elementary to middle school to high school. It is always a big leap, not just changing buildings, but, making that you have a streamlined curriculum that starts from elementary school and keeps on building through every level. And then, I guess, there's a lot of priorities, but so probably the last is just to continue the relationship with the administration, and that's probably it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And same question to you, Julie. It is, why are you the best candidate for this job? And if elected, what will be your priorities?
Thank you. Why am I the best candidate? As Jamie said, I think I'm a good candidate. I think I bring, like I said earlier, a varied background. Being a teacher, you have to have a lot of different skills, and you go from one thing to another very quickly. You have to be able to pivot very quickly depending on what's going on in front of you at the time. I think that's something that as a school committee member I could do, because there are various facets that the school committee looks at, and also there are varied needs throughout the community. Experiencing that and working with the parents and their children. As students, I believe I have a pretty good understanding of what the town's looking for in their educational system and what their needs are. I believe that also having some administration background gives me a little bit of insight as to what our administrators go through on a daily basis, what needs they have, and how best we can support them. And I think my priorities are, again, to continue with the curriculum streamlining, but also to bring a little bit more transparency to what's going on within the school system as far as, the day-to-days, getting back to giving a summary of the reports that are being delivered on a monthly basis, and also making sure that we're holding our administration accountable so that they are following the policies and procedures that the town sees as beneficial to their children, who are our students.
Thank you. And I am going to stay with you at this point. Each of our candidates have 2 minutes for closing remarks. And so, Julie, your 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, as I said, I would like to give back. I was an employee of the town of Rockland for a while. I'm a parent of 2 successful Rockland Bulldog graduates. I also have 2 new Bulldogs, I guess, 2 young Bulldogs in the school system. And I'm sure, many people know my husband was on the finance committee, a selectman. We've coached different sports in the town, been very involved, and now that I'm not working in the town, I want to find a way to volunteer and give back to a community that really has given so much to me and my family over the past 25 years.
Thank you. And Jamie?
All right. First, I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to share my responses. I know 5 or 6 questions does not make a known person, but hopefully I've given the community some insights into who I am and sort of what I could bring to the school committee again if I'm reelected. I do want to encourage anyone with additional questions, if something's come up outside of our responses, to reach out to me. I'm always willing to have a conversation in open dialogue, and then, continue to build those connections across Rockland.
Wonderful. And thank you both very much, and thank you for running. And again, you can vote for your school committee member with our municipal election on April 8th. This is a 3-year term, and all questions were edited and provided by Jared Valenzuela and myself. So thank you. And thank you both so very much for your time. I truly appreciate it, and thank you for your service to the town.
Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we have our select board candidates. This year on the ballot, we have 2 candidates, and we also have a brief statement from a write-in candidate, that being Mr. Ambrose. He wanted to express his regrets. He could not make it tonight due to a work conflict. Of our 2 remaining candidates, John Ellard has come in to join us tonight, and we thank you for being here. You have 2 minutes to give your opening statement, and then we'll begin.
All right, thank you. I guess I'll start by telling a little bit about myself. I've been married to my wife Gina for 30 years now. We raised both our children, John and Natalie, here in Rockland, sent them to Rockland schools. Both are now college graduates, and both will soon have their master's degrees, so little dad brag right there. I have a long history of volunteering my time. It's probably approaching 20 years of being involved in some capacity. So you may know me for a variety of reasons. You may know me from when I was a coach with Rockland Youth Soccer. I coached both my kids, all the way micros, all the way up through travel. You may know me from my 10 years I served on the RYS executive board, where I served at varying times the director of fundraising, the treasurer, and their secretary. You may know me from the recall effort from several years ago. If you came up to sign the petition, there's a pretty good chance that I was one of the people who handed it to you. You may know me from my time on the Finance Committee, where I served as chair and would speak at town meeting, giving you all an update on the town's budget. You may know me from my time on the Capital Planning Committee, the Southfield Redevelopment Advisory Committee, or most recently on the Charter Review Committee. Or you may know me from my time as your elected town treasurer, where I had the pleasure of serving you for over 9 years. So I guess my point is that I've been involved for a long time in a variety of ways. Now, as for what kind of drew me into town government initially, I remember exactly what that happened there. It was about 15 years ago. There was a debt exclusion for repairs on our library, for the library roof. I mean, it's a library, for God's sake, a historic building in town. It should be a no-brainer. No, it wasn't approved, and I couldn't believe it. How could things be so bad that we didn't want to repair the library roof? And that's when I asked myself the age-old question, why doesn't somebody do something about this? And I think we've all probably asked ourselves that question, but I decided that I would try to be that somebody. So I joined the Finance Committee and quickly learned how bad things really were financially, how much distrust there was with our government, and we were even talking about closing entire departments at that point. So we've come a long way since then, and I was part of the team that helped move Rockland forward. I stress that was a team effort. I'm definitely not an I guy. I don't like calling attention to myself. It isn't about I and me, it's about us and we. And with your support, I'm hoping to continue this positive momentum for the next 3 years as a member of the Select Board.
Thank you very much. I'm actually going to start you where we left off with our school committee members. What qualifies you to hold this position, and if elected, what will be your first priorities?
Okay. So for qualifications, I'll start with my education. I obtained my bachelor's degree in economics from UMass Dartmouth. I then went on to the University of Notre Dame, where I obtained my MBA with concentrations in international business and finance. I spent the majority of my corporate career working at State Street for over 15 years, where I obtained my Series 3, 7, and 63 broker's licenses, and was a vice president when I was laid off during the Great Recession back in 2009. In 2012, I was elected to the position of town treasurer and was re-elected 3 times. And I also became a certified Massachusetts municipal treasurer. And last year, I had a tremendous opportunity that was presented to me to become the treasurer collector in the town of Mansfield. And now I'm also working at becoming a certified Massachusetts municipal collector. And let's talk a little bit about our budget here in Rockland, which is north of $70 million. The Select Board is basically the board of directors of a large business. And I'm the only candidate whose full-time profession it is in municipal finance. I've spent nearly 15 years here in Rockland between the FinCom and being treasurer, and now I have the added experience of seeing how another town does things, and I hope to bring some of that experience here. I do believe I have a very unique skill set between my education, my corporate experience, and now my municipal experience that will be of great value to the town. And I believe that these skills will complement the members of the board that are already there. Notre Dame is renowned for their ethics program. It's always ranked as one of the best in the nation, and that has been a huge part of the curriculum, and it's something that I've always carried with me. I'm a big believer in following the rules and doing what is right, especially when it's difficult. Quickly, as my priorities, I want to help with rent control. I know the residents of Leisure Woods are looking at a $30,000 a month collective increase in their rents. I'm also hoping to work on improving our 40B affordable housing numbers to get it up to the 10% threshold so we can avoid having other projects maybe we don't want kind of being jammed down our throats. I want to bring my financial background to take a look at spending, make sure we're spending our money as efficiently as possible. And finally, I want to improve public engagement with our local government because a lot of people have checked out, and I think that's kind of a terrible thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And to that effort, what are your thoughts about changing the town charter to create a public works department by combining the highway and parks department? And this is a multi-tier question. Do you support eliminating some of our municipal elections and allowing the select board to appoint those positions rather than our constituents or our residents to vote on them? Some which have been discussed are town clerk, treasurer, or tax collector.
Sure. All right. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a member of the Charter Review Committee, and this exact subject came up at our last meeting just earlier this week. We're working with a place called the Collins Center, which is part of UMass Boston, and they help guide cities and towns with making improvements to their charters. And one thing, the piece of advice that they stressed is to include all the stakeholders in the decision-making process, and I completely agree with that. You want to hear them out, you want to listen to their concerns, and try to incorporate their ideas into whatever the plan is. This plan cannot be seen as a power grab or an attempt to take away from the public's ability to control how their government is run. I am comfortable with all of the ideas you mentioned in theory, but as the saying goes, the devil's in the details. So let's see what the plan is, hear from all the stakeholders, and then make a determination. Mansfield has already combined the treasurer and collector into one position, and this position is appointed, not elected. And one of the things that drew me to accept this role is that it's a unionized position. All the department heads in Mansfield are unionized. We're part of the United Steelworkers family. It seems like a strange umbrella to be under, but I do take great comfort in knowing that I have the United Steelworkers behind me if something does go sideways. And if Rockland does decide to combine the treasurer-collector and those other positions you mentioned, and we continue our practice of no individual employment contracts, I know if I were looking at coming here, that might be a detriment to me. And we might have a hard time collecting or attracting attractive candidates. So the Select Board has made this decision to venture down this path, and I am perfectly okay with this. And this is where my experience as both an elected official here in Rockland and being appointed in Mansfield will be extremely helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. And some of our buildings have fallen into disrepair. Do you feel that the town should implement building maintenance schedules? And who would create and/or enforce said schedules? And finally, what are your thoughts on bringing on a facilities manager?
Okay. There's a lot of things that I'd like to do if we had unlimited funds. So maybe if, Elon Musk or Warren Buffett are out there watching, and I know you are, give me a call and we'll put some of those excess funds to good use here in Rockland. But seriously, preventive maintenance is always a good investment, one that we probably haven't been making as much as we should have been. Keeping up on it will help us save for the major repairs. So is it possible that we may be able to afford to hire a facilities manager with these savings? That is something we don't want to kind of crunch the numbers on and see if it works. But yes, in theory, I would love to do that. It's just a question, can we afford it, like a lot of things. So.
Union Point is being developed, and thus far Weymouth seems to be seeking or reaping the majority of the benefits. Do you see any opportunities over there for Rockland, and how would you approach opportunities while being cognizant of both traffic and environmental impacts to our town?
Right. Well, just to give you an idea, I moved to Rockland in 1998, and this project was already started at that point, and that was over a quarter century ago. So this has been going on for a while. How many plans have we seen? How many companies have come in and said, we're different, we'll allow, and we'll get this done? Maybe this time it will be true. I'm hearing good things about this company's track record about taking projects all the way to completion. Union Point is the largest undeveloped area here in Rockland. There's a tremendous opportunity here, but we need to be smart about it. We just can't develop it for the sake of development. We need to ensure that what we are promised, we actually receive. We need to ensure that the open spaces are protected and that the conservation areas remain untouched. Where's the water going to come from? Where's the sewer going to go? How will this affect our schools and our fire coverage? If there is housing built there, will it be affordable? And will it help us get to our 40B goals? These are all, questions that are up in the air, and, I hope to do my best to, get them answered.
Thank you. How do you feel about the current tax rates assigned to Rockland businesses and Rockland residents? What are your thoughts on the split tax rate, which some argue would place too high a burden on the businesses while offering minimal relief to the homeowners?
Yeah, I'm 100% against splitting the tax rate in Rockland at this time. And if you're going to excuse me, I'm kind of going to geek out a little bit and kind of get into the math, why it doesn't make sense. Rockland's ratio of residential to commercial valuation is approximately 80-20. Now, the maximum amount the town can raise in property tax is something called the tax levy. The tax rate that is charged is determined by taking that levy and dividing it by the appraised value of all the properties here in Rockland. So you kind of think of the levy as a pie. 80% of the pie is for for residential, 20% comes from commercial. So let's take a very simplified example. The total levy for town X is 1,000. The total appraised value for residential is 80, and for commercial it's 20. You do the math, and that comes up with a tax rate of 10. So that means the town would raise 800 from its residential, from its residents, and 200 from its commercial properties. Now, let's say town X decides to split their tax rate and decides to make the residential rate 9. This means the town would raise 720 from their residential properties, 80 less than before. This 80 would now need to be collected from the commercial properties. So they now would have to raise 280 instead of 200. And that means, if you do the math out, their tax rate jumps all the way to 14. So I guess, in other words, for every dollar of reduction in a resident's bill, the commercial property will go up by 4%. And what will happen is many of these commercial properties won't be able to afford this increase, and they may close, or they may just pass this extra cost along to the residents, and they're going to end up paying for it one way or the other. And this will actually reduce that size of the commercial portion of the levy pie, if you will, and then that will obviously make the residential portion even bigger, which then will eat away at the savings that you receive by the reduction. And just as an added bonus, we'll have less jobs, less things to do here in town. So we should look at encouraging more businesses to come to Rockland to increase that section of the levy pie. And this will mean that the residents' bit will go down, and that's how they're actually going to save money, by actually attracting business. So, maybe at some point when it's not as lopsided as 80-20, we can revisit it, but I don't see that coming anytime soon.
And looking towards that potential time, a critical source of new revenue and growth in Rockland is commercial economic development. What needs to be done, not only with Rockland's water and sewer issues, but how do we ensure that we make Rockland competitive within this region?
Yeah, obviously, water and sewer issues are going to hamper our ability to attract new business, but, Rockland isn't really alone in this. Neglected infrastructure is an issue everywhere. It's going to take a lot of money. Elon Musk kind of money maybe, but to, kind of fix this. But, all we can really do is keep looking for more grants, state and federal programs. There's low or no-interest programs out there, especially on PFAS removal and things like that. I know the town has done some work on that. And then obviously, we just talked about, don't split the tax rate. You want to make it, you want businesses to come here, not leave, so.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on Rockland's experience thus far with marijuana dispensaries?
Yeah, it's financially, it's been a positive. We've used the proceeds from our community host agreements to purchase equipment like police cruisers and fire apparatus. I know that there's been there's some traffic issues initially, but I haven't heard of that recently. Maybe the novelty is wearing off a bit, or maybe the market is finally getting saturated with, now I think we have 4 here in Rockland. So it's, but it is kind of unfortunate that the state kind of midstream changed the rules, what we can do with these community host agreements. So we agreed to have these places come in, and now we won't be able to collect as much from them. That's kind of unfortunate, but, that's the state sometimes, so. But I think it's, like I say, overall been a positive, at least on a, financial point of view.
Thank you. Rockland is facing infrastructure issues, as we know, with both our sewer and water facilities. How would you work to resolve this issue? Do you feel that the select board should work in conjunction with the water and sewer boards?
Yeah. There is obviously definitely issues with both the water and sewer infrastructure, and no one will disagree with that. How would I work to resolve these issues? Quite honestly, I would kind of stay out of their way and offer support. I have no idea how best to reduce I&I or how the sewer plant works. I have no idea how to remove PFAS from our drinking water, how best to approach replacing the water mains, or ensuring that we have enough water for everyone. There's a reason I didn't run for sewer commissioner or water commissioner. I would let them know that I'm here to help in any way. Well, in any way that doesn't involve, boots that come up to my chest and, wading into anything. But seriously, helping them find funding, grants, those low or no interest loans that I just mentioned. And then obviously helping them look at their finances, if there's any way we can do things more efficiently. And finally, leveraging our relationships with Senator Keenan and Representative DeCoste.
Excellent, thank you. Do you think that communication between the various boards and committees is a problem in Rockland? If so, how would you work to increase interboard coordination and decision-making?
Yeah, I guess the answer depends on which board or committee you're talking about. But communication could always be better. The best way to describe my planned approach would be to explain my management style. It has always been hands-off. Whatever the opposite of micromanage is the best way to describe it. You empower them, you trust them, you encourage them, you offer support and guidance, you remind them of our common goals, and you treat them like adults and like professionals. Maybe a little less stick and a lot more carrot. And I found that this has worked really well. And when you do find yourself at an impasse or having a disagreement, it's important to remain calm and try to de-escalate things. Be direct and honest without being rude or confrontational. Remain humble and listen, and find that common ground. There are many examples where, I guess, bad blood, started with some simple misunderstanding or misconception. Neither side is willing to step back and reevaluate things, or try to, and things start to fester, and no one ever benefits from that. Now, don't get me wrong, I can be just as stubborn as the next guy, but maybe it's a function of all this new gray in my beard that, as I'm getting older, that I now realize how silly it is and unproductive it is to hold a grudge. So we need to set all that set aside and do what's best for the town.
Thank you. And my final question for you is, transparency and accessibility are issues raised by some of our citizens. Should all committee meetings provide Zoom access and/or record their meetings for public record? And should the Board of Selectmen have a public comment period at their meeting?
Okay, in theory, every meeting should be recorded, preserved, and made available for public viewing. I know WRPS can't be everywhere at all times. It would be nice if they could, but if we could find a way to do that, I definitely would support that. Transparency is everything. Now, as for the public comment period at select board meetings, absolutely. Mansfield does this. In fact, they list it twice on every agenda, and that's not a mistake. They do it once at the beginning and once at the end, because they want to make sure that if you arrive late to the meeting, or if something comes up in the meeting, that you actually have an opportunity to speak about it. Now, I do know that there are some concerns about possibly violating the open meeting law. And if you know me, you know following the open meeting law is important to me. But it can be done if it's handled right.
Okay.
So I've been going around actually knocking on doors, speaking to residents, and one common theme I keep hearing is many people aren't paying attention. They've kind of checked out. They don't see the point. What I hear them say is, they don't listen. They do what they want anyway. Now, I'm not quite sure who this "they" is, but I'm fairly certain that they don't count me in their group, or they won't be issuing any type of statement saying they're endorsing my campaign. I will welcome your questions. I want to hear your opinions. I may not always agree with them or be able to answer them right away, but I will always find that answer for you. Now, you may not like my answer, and it may not always be, but it will always be truthful. And sometimes they don't want to hear the truth, and that's fine. But it won't deter me from speaking the truth.
Thank you. And you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank both the Democratic and Republican town committees and the Rockland Chamber of Commerce for giving me this opportunity and hosting this event. So as I mentioned, I've spent the last 15 years of my professional life helping to move Rockland forward. As I stated in my opening, I believe I have a very unique skill set between my education, corporate experience, and now my municipal experience. And I believe that these skill sets will complement what we have on the board. I want to improve transparency. I want to help with rent control. I want to give people a reason to believe in their local government again. But it doesn't matter what I want. It matters what you want. You need to show up and vote. Local elections are times where your vote actually matters. And the typical turnout is usually between 10 and 15%, which is an incredibly sad statistic. So please take a few minutes to come out and vote. The election is Easter weekend, so if you're going to be away, go up to Town Hall and vote early. They're open late this coming Tuesday. I'm willing to donate my time, my expertise, my experience for free. Select board members, don't get paid to do this. But I do believe in public service and giving back. So I guess I'll just wrap it up by humbly and respectfully asking for your vote on Saturday, April 8th for the Select Board. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank my committee, the Rockland Democratic Town Committee, the Rockland Democratic, the Rockland Republican Town Committee, the Rockland Chamber of Commerce, and specifically Jared Valenzuela for working with me on putting these questions together. I want to extend a huge thank you to the wonderful folks here at WRPS for being there and making this little piece of our civic duty public. I want to give a huge thanks to Deborah Diener, to Jamie Hennessy, to Julie Minahan, and to John Ellard. These questions that Jared and I put together are not easy, and doing this work took time, and being here tonight took time. And I thank you for putting yourselves out there on the ballot. I thank you for doing the work to come here tonight. And I wish you the best of luck. And we have an election April 8th. As Mr. Ellard did say, our town hall will be open late on Tuesday night. Please make certain you go out and vote. This is our town, and we want to do the best for our town. So let's look into all candidates, those who could and could not be here tonight, and please take the time to vote for your town and your town's future. Thank you very much.